weekend, I was hosting an emergency questions and answers live for families in intensive care on YouTube. I do these YouTubes once a week. And I want to talk about this YouTube live from the weekend because I was consulting a family that joined me live on the YouTube live stream. My name is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and this is another quick tip for families in intensive care. So in the YouTube live on the weekend, I had a family on the show that has their 66-year-old dad in an ICU in the UK in an NHS hospital. Now, the dad is 66, and up until a few weeks ago, he was perfectly healthy. Then he was stuck with a severe cough, and he ended up in ICU with a pneumonia and interstitial lung disease, also known as pulmonary fibrosis with scar tissues on the lung. And then he ended up intubated initially for a couple of days, extubated and intubated again for a couple of days in an induced coma on a ventilator with a breathing tube. And then he got extubated on high flow nasal prongs, high flow nasal cannula, alternating with BiPAP and CPAP. And that is obviously a very difficult situation to be in because at the moment he cannot come off the high flow nasal oxygen and he cannot come off the BiPAP and the CPAP. So, and he's on 65 to 70% of FiO2 or oxygen requirements on the high flow nasal cannula. The family didn't know the BiPAP or CPAP settings. So one of the questions that the family had or was asking me was, he is on steroids for the pulmonary fibrosis and interstitial lung disease, and the intensive care team told the patient, of the family, told the patient that if they don't work by a certain date, i.e. Sunday, then his only option would be end-of-life care. And bear in mind, this man is a young man at 66 years of age and who has worked all his life up until a few weeks ago, up until this hospital admission. Now, the intensive care team also wanted to make him a DNR, do not resuscitate, and the family already successfully objected that with my help, because they sent me a message afterwards and saying, oh, they revoked the DNR just by, your help, by helping us advocate, by helping us with the argument that he shouldn't be DNR. So, we know that our consulting and advocacy works and gives families in intensive care outcomes. Now, at no point in time did the intensive care team offer any other treatment options. Now, another treatment options in a situation like that would be lung transplant, would be perfectly logical. So for someone with pulmonary fibrosis, interstitial lung disease, and scar tissues on the lungs, many patients are at home on high flow nasal oxygen and are on a lung transplant list. So, and now, given that he's in ICU, he would be a good candidate to get on the lung transplant list. I have seen, in my extensive work in critical care, where I looked after thousands of critically ill patients and their families while working in intensive care in 3 different countries, including having worked as a nurse manager in critical care for over 5 years, seen patients with pulmonary fibrosis go on a lung transplant list literally overnight, and they sometimes have received a lung transplant within a few days. And the intensive care team in this situation saying he's too weak for that. Well, he's still mobilizing, he's still getting out of bed every day. He is eating, drinking, he's talking, right? Which is what a patient at home would do as well if they're in high flow nasal cannula. So the argument that he's too unwell is not really cutting it. So the intensive care team is obviously hell-bent on creating a narrative about end of life, right? They're creating a narrative of doom and gloom without actually looking at the realities of whether this is a real or a perceived end-of-life situation, right? A real end-of-life situation is if someone can't be saved with any treatment, medication, surgery, equipment, right? Then that's a real end-of-life situation. Now, in this situation, I strongly believe this is a perceived end-of-life situation and not a real end-of-life situation. I've made plenty of videos over the years and highlighting the difference between a quote-unquote real and quote-unquote perceived end-of-life situation. Go and check them out. go to my website, intensivecarehotline.com, and type in the search bar real and perceived end-of-life situation, and you get plenty of information there, because I think it is important for you that you understand the difference. And if the intensive care team was taking the right approach, there's a very high chance that this man will have a very good outcome with a lung transplant. But obviously, they're not interested in putting in the resources for a 66-year-old man, which is really disappointing. They're focusing on the end-of-life narrative, and they just want to empty their ICU bed. But this story continues, so just bear with me. They gave him this deadline that if the steroids don't work by Sunday, his only option is end of life. Well, what if the steroids work by Tuesday? What if the steroids work by Thursday? Because nobody knows until you've tried. And what's the issue with keeping trying? Now, if the intensive care team creating the doom and gloom and end of life narrative for this family and for this man, if that wasn't already enough, it's getting better. Now, they have told the gentleman and the family to move him to what they call, and I'm paraphrasing here, to what the intensive care team calls the dumping ground. Yes, you've heard that correctly. You've heard it correctly. They want to move him to the dumping ground. So what basically the family told me on this YouTube live, and I'll link to the YouTube live so you can hear it for yourself, is that this particular ICU, NHS in the UK, is moving their patients to that they think are dying to their dumping ground, and they're not putting it on quotes. I verified with the family, is that really the term they're using? I said, yes, it's even written on the whiteboard in their dad's room for discharge to dumping ground. Now, that is unbelievable that any ICU would use, or any hospital would use, such a degrading term for someone that's potentially end of life, but it's also extremely degrading for patients that are dying. I mean, it's an absolute disgrace. And it's a terrible phrase to use. It's unheard of. And apparently it makes reference to the palliative care ward, right? Palliative care or hospice ward, right? And palliative care, just for reference, means end-of-life care. So why would anyone refer to a dumping ground for people that are dying? That is absolutely terrible. And it just goes to show that human life is no longer worth living, apparently, according to the NHS in this particular hospital. They need to be called out for that. And it's absolutely shocking. So, and I just want to keep focusing on here that it is extremely concerning that an ICU labels a palliative care ward as a dumping ground. Looks like human life doesn't matter anymore, especially in the NHS in the UK. I mean, the NHS in the UK is in such a big mess. But given that the NHS over the years has publicly shown that they're prepared to kill children publicly, and I'll just mention here, Charlie Gard, Alfie Evans, just Google these names, just to name a few babies they've killed over the years publicly, whilst their parents had the money to fly these children out to Italy, to America for ongoing treatment. The NHS decided to kill them instead. So, of course, the NHS has no qualms labeling a palliative care ward a dumping ground. And now they're also trying to tell the patient that, if he is going to the quote-unquote dumping ground, then he will be comfortable, because then he will be getting fentanyl, morphine, midazolam, which is hastening death, right? And that is euthanasia, and euthanasia is illegal in the UK. But it's happening every day in ICU. With my extensive experience in ICU, euthanasia is happening every day in ICU all around the world, but no one wants to label it as such because it is illegal. Now, I've advised the family to advocate for a lung transplant, and I advised the family to advocate to not let him go to this palliative care ward that they completely inappropriately label as a dumping ground. Now, and like I said, the ICU team has already removed the DNR, which again shows that our consulting and advocacy works and that it is absolutely life-changing. But it also shows that what is happening in this particular situation is so shocking, and I do believe that some ICUs have completely lost their morals and ethics, and they've stopped providing the services they're meant to provide, which is saving lives. Now, like I said, I've worked in critical care nursing for 25 years in 3 different countries, where I worked as a nurse manager for over 5 years in critical care. And I've been consulting and advocating for families in intensive care since 2013 here at intensivecare.com. And I can very confidently say that we have saved many lives for our clients in intensive care. And you can verify that on our testimonial section at intensivecare.com. And you can verify it on our intensivecare.com podcast section at intensivecare.com, where we have done client interviews. And because I know we have saved so many lives for our clients in intensive care with our consulting and advocacy, we can do the same for you, right? Just like I've just done on a YouTube live, just with some insights that only a few people have. We could already remove the DNR for this gentleman and hopefully give him a second chance at life. And you can join a growing number of clients and members. We have helped hundreds and hundreds of members and clients over the years, improving their lives instantly, making sure they make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, influence when they have a loved one critically ill in intensive care, so that their loved one always gets best care and treatment. And you can do the same by joining us. Our advice, consulting, and advocacy is absolutely life-changing, because the biggest challenge for families in intensive care is simply that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know their rights, and they don't know how to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care. And that's why I do one-on-one consulting and advocacy over the phone, Zooms, Skype, WhatsApp, whichever medium works best for you. And I talk to you and your families directly. I handhold you through this once-in-a-lifetime situation that you simply can't afford to get wrong. I also talk to doctors and nurses directly. And when I talk to doctors and nurses directly with you or on your behalf or setting you up with the right questions, I ask all the questions that you haven't even considered asking but must be asked when you have a loved one critically ill in intensive care. I also represent you in family meetings with intensive care teams. We also do medical record reviews in real time. We also do medical record reviews after intensive care, so that if you have unanswered questions, if you need closure, or if you are suspecting medical negligence, you can get closure and you can get a second opinion. We also have a membership for families of critically ill patients in intensive care, and you can become a member if you go to intensivecare.com. If you click on the link, on the membership link, or if you go to intensivcaresupport.org directly. In the membership, you have access to me and my team 24 hours a day in the membership area and via email, and we answer all questions intensive care related. In the membership, you also have exclusive access to 21 ebooks and 21 videos that I have personally written and recorded. And that will help you to make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one gets best care and treatment always. And all of that you get at intensivecare.com. Call us on one of the numbers on the top of our website, or simply send us an email to support@intensivecare.com with your questions. And if you like my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel for regular updates for families in intensive care. Click the like button, click the notification bell, share this video with your friends and families, and comment below what you want to see next, what questions and insights you have. I also do a weekly YouTube live where I answer your questions live on a show, and you will get notification for the YouTube live if you are a subscriber to my YouTube channel, or if you are a subscriber to my intensivecare.com email newsletter at intensivecare.com. Thank you so much for watching. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecare.com, and I will talk to you in a few days. Take care for now.